the meeting to order. Welcome to the Wednesday, October 9, 2024 Design Review Board meeting. Public comment is by Zoom or by phone by calling 877-852-5247 or 888-788-0099 and entering meeting ID 974-6174-9412. This information is also available on the published agenda in the public notices section of the city website and on the broadcast of this meeting on CTN channel 16, AT&T channel 99, and online at www.a2gov.org/watch-CTN. The Volunteer Resident Design Review Board, appointed by the mayor and confirmed by city council, fosters excellence in Ann Arbor's built environment design and advises applicants on meeting downtown design guidelines. First, the applicant presents their proposed project for 15 minutes. Then the board discusses the design. After that, members of the public can comment for up to 3 minutes each. Hank, if you can do the roll call, please.
I will actually be doing the roll call for today. Jeffrey Perkins.
Here.
Tamara Burns. Lori Singleton.
Here.
Thank you. William Kinley.
Here.
Richard Mitchell.
Here.
John Kotarski. And Wendy Ramson.
Here.
Thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. We'll move on to approval of our agenda. If I could have a motion to approve in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Dick and seconded by Lori. Any discussion on the agenda? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Agenda is approved. Next is the approval of the minutes. This is the minutes from our July 10, 2024 Design Review Board meeting. If I could have a motion and second.
Motion to approve. Second.
Moved by Lori and seconded by Wendy. Any discussion?
Yes, please. I would like to clarify a comment on the first project, the 1209 South University. Item number 4 about the brick column and radius. It's written as being very tight. Transparency might be good. I would like to add in there, my comment was really that that area might benefit from an inset and not just transparency, but push back. So however you want to word it, I think this was drafted by Julia. But I'd like that added, please.
Believe that was circulated by email for final comment. It has been provided to the petitioner team, so we could send that to them.
Okay. Well, I thought that was what my comment was.
Okay, so you
I had to make it clear when we were in the meeting.
Julia, that was your project that you brought to DRB, correct?
Yes.
Okay, and we did circulate that for comments from the board members, correct?
Yes, we circulated the draft.
Okay.
And then after a week, as is protocol, assumed final with no comments.
Okay, well, my apologies. I missed that, so.
That's okay. Would it be acceptable to you, Ms. Ramson, if we clarified that comment in an email to the petitioner?
Sure.
Okay. We will do that instead of just because of the delay, it seems like it would be challenging to update all of the various copies and where they live, I would rather add that clarification as an update to the.
Sure. Like I say, I
Thank you.
thought that was clear when I spoke to them, but it was more than just transparency. So fine.
Got it. Did you hear what the correction was, Julia? Ms. Shake?
Did not, because I was preparing something for this meeting, but if let me open up a tab to note that.
Okay. Would
Uh,
you
Yeah,
would
so
you
Ms.
Julia,
repeat
Rand-
it?
it was item number 4 on the 1209 South University. Just making sure that one of the options is actually an inset or rather than just transparency at the corner.
Thank you.
Thanks. And I will be more attentive next time when the minutes come through.
That is good to point out because for the draft recommendation summary that staff will prepare for this meeting, it will also be circulated by email because of the staggered nature of the board. You do not always have meetings that are consecutive. So we had to find another way to finalize your recommendations without waiting 4 months or so, or convening a meeting just for the purpose of approving minutes. So that is how we've achieved that. You will actually have a meeting next month. However, we'll still plan to circulate those for comment via email. So please look out for that email from Ms. Shake.
Thank you.
And just to clarify, Wendy, and to the rest of the members, what we do, I think it's about a week after this meeting, we circulate a draft letter where we summarize the comments from the members. We circulate that to the members before we finalize it and share that with the applicant. So be on the lookout in about a week.
Yeah, so I don't suppose there's any way to, I mean, in essence, the reality of what we're dealing with is that our comments are going out to the developers, to the development team, as though, I guess with the understanding that we're going to approve that at our next meeting, because I think we have to approve minutes in a public forum. So yeah, if you can pay attention to what comes to you in email, and if you have any objections, just make sure you copy all when you, not objections, but clarifications or whatever. Just get that back to everybody at the time that the emails are circulated. In that way, they can go to the developer and then they've got everything. So. Without objection, send that to the development team and we can move on. I guess we have to vote on the approval of the minutes. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. And the minutes are approved. Picking up Wendy's comment. Now we move on to public comment section. Brittany?
At this time, we have no comments or hands raised.
All right. To speak during public comment, please use the raised hand feature in Zoom or call 877-852-5247 or 888-788-0099 toll free and enter meeting ID 974-6174-9412. There will be another public comment section at the later on in this meeting. And now we move on to regular business. DR 24-0004, 303 Detroit Street. Julia?
Thank you. Was just promoting our panelists. So this is point of clarification for the agenda. This is introduction of the project. I present my staff report after the applicant presents, correct?
Yes.
Right. This is a project at 303 Detroit Street, a proposed plan to convert this site from an office retail building to a primarily residential building. Construction includes building an additional floor on top of the existing buildings, adding balconies to the east side, and creating a parking garage in the basement accessed by rotating automobile elevator from a new driveway off North 4th Avenue. The additional 10,000 square feet of floor area features glass and aluminum curtain walls to reduce apparent mass and contrast from the existing industrial aesthetic. The site is located at the south end of the North 4th Catherine Detroit block, zoned D2 downtown interface and Carytown character overlay district and secondary street type designation. And just as a note, that this is some additions on existing space. Existing building is a little bit more than 30,000 square feet. So it's an addition of about 10,000 square feet. So the ground floor and then 3 to 4 floors, depending on the two buildings that are connected, will remain primarily intact with some modifications, and most of the work will be done in addition on the roof of these two buildings. With that, I will turn the floor over to the applicant team. We have 2 representatives and other representatives available from the applicant team to present their project.
You're muted, Mark.
Oh, Julia?
There?
Yeah.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And video? Guess I'm on. So I'm not quite sure how we're going to handle the referencing here. Will you be allowing us to share our screens with us to show the graphics, or are you going to be doing that, Julia?
No, you should be able to. Do you not see the share green button on the bottom
Oh,
of your
yeah.
screen?
Yeah.
I
I'm
can,
going to have Jim share that. And is he promoted to speak also?
yeah.
Okay. All right, great. Okay. So I'm just going to give a little recap here of our design concepts and what our ideas were, and then I'm going to have Jim, as the project architect, discuss some of the other features in more detail. But if we go to sheet A4, Jim, which is the exterior views of the old agricultural implement hall and the 1988 edition. When we've looked at this building for a long time, since the building across the street, the Flatiron building directly across the street, took a lot of its design cues from the heavy concrete base that held up the other 4 floors, and some of the other sheet metal elements were incorporated next door. Now, the agricultural hall building was built 1856, and it was substantially renovated over the years with many improvements, including widening the windows to accommodate all aluminum sash. We think sometime in the mid-50s, something like that. So that's why the windows are not quite proportional to the width is not an 1856 kind of demonstration of how you would do a window like that. And then in 1988, when the new addition was added, designed by Frederick Herman, the existing building was substantially upgraded structurally. The footings were underpinned, more steel was added to reduce the spans on the floors. So right now we have a quite robust 1850s building. The parapet has been rebuilt. So we're able to accommodate more loads on this building than we would normally be able to without substantial structural work. Plus, we have very good bearing in this area with the gravel outwash moraine plain. So it's the pounds per square foot can easily accommodate an additional floor on both buildings. I think one of the things that we looked at what was the importance of this facade here on the right where the garden court is, the silo egress stair tower, and how that related to the farmers market building. And it's become a very important part, I think, of the farmers market experience is to walk by this. And so one of our early objectives was to look at how we can preserve this as much as possible. And in fact, we are doing very little except for some pedestrian access ways that will affect the pedestrian experience at this level. And it's been vacant for quite a while. When Sweet Lorraine's went out of business, there was a business there. But these courtyards will be made more active with courtyards off of the lower level. Now, let's go to sheet A4, Jim, or I'm sorry, A10. And that's the first floor plan.
I'm on A10, Mark.
Or you're on A10. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So one of the early questions was, how are we going to handle parking, pedestrian access, elevators, and services? And there was a lot of discussion among the design team as to whether we do it off of the Detroit Street side or do we do it off the 4th Avenue side? And we came to the conclusion that it'd be better to preserve the garden court and the experience on the Detroit Street side and not encumber that with vehicle package drop-offs, pickup and loading, vehicular access. So this led us to decide to create a new parking entrance where we have an access to a carousel parking system that will accommodate 12 cars, as well as a drop-off and a new elevator that's located in the slot between the two buildings. And of course, as you can see, the blue common area there is a kind of continuation of that existing pass-through now that you walk through. It will be closed off, and but residents will be able to walk through the building or be able to walk out towards the farmers market or walk onto 4th Ave or walk to the elevator, go down to a level and call for their vehicle to be delivered on the spot without going into the garage. So that's, Jim can explain how that works when we look at the cross sections a little bit later. So once we got that issue sort of out of the way, then it became a matter of working out the other details. So I'm going to let Jim sort of start from there and walk you through some of the other features of the building.
Okay, so at the ground plane, our goal was to provide a vehicle access from 4th Avenue. And this is going to be done at grade. So this garage area is halfway between the basement area and the first floor area. It accommodates a carousel system that has a turntable in front of it. So we'll be able to drive in and load your vehicle in through the center of the carousel, and it will stack 12 vehicles in there. And then we have one ADA handicap space, which is required by code. That's also accessed off the turntable. And so when you back out, the turntable can either turn 180 degrees or 90 degrees, and then your vehicle will exit out facing the street. We decided to put a loading area. we decided to have the main lobby because currently there's no handicap access from grade to this building. The existing elevator is a 2,500-pound series and it's smaller than will handle a gurney for this building when it was put in 1988. So we're accommodating a new elevator and a new lobby area that's at grade that will be accessed from the 4th Avenue side. And then we're doing packages for Amazon, and the corridor itself will be blocked off. Currently right here, there's a stair to the basement, exterior outdoor stair, which collects a lot of debris and stuff. And so it's we're going to try and eliminate that access point so that we can have better security of the building and stuff. We're going to maintain the access here that's currently here and the entrance here for going up. The grade slopes considerably. It slopes 5 feet from front to back. And we'll have suites on the main floor. The existing silos being maintained. We've got some balconies that we're going to be accessing from those suites. The next floor up, the only change here again will be just an elevator shaft and the vehicle shaft with some additional balconies on the building. We're going to do some hung metal balconies on the brick veneer for the White Swan building. Some balconies in the gaps between the two buildings that are there currently. We're just trying to maintain the same original look of the building that was there all along. Same thing on the 3rd floor, has nothing there. 4th floor, here we're going to add a story on top of the White Swan building. It's going to be accessed from the elevator. We are going to do this suite. It's going to be a half a flight up from the original 4th floor because the parapet wall is so high on the White Swan building. We're going to have to offset this story. So it's going to have its own entrance from the elevator. On the 5th floor, we're going to add on to the 1988 edition with 2 suites up there, private balconies on opposite corners, and then a common space with the stairs there and the elevator access. So in the elevation, we're maintaining everything that's original to the building. The only elements that are changing are the upper elements we decided to do with the 4th floor story here, the stair access and the elevator access, and then another 5th story up here on the 1988 edition. This large element here is our car carousel that's facing the farmers market parking lot. Balconies will be added, and they're independent of the building except for the hung balconies that are on the White Swan building. We're going to maintain glazing up there for the upper penthouse suites and do a light metal, either gray or some kind of light metal. This will be the access for the garage on 4th Avenue with a man door there that's accessible. This will be our new canopy here that we're adding as far as an element to our lobby that's at grade on 4th Avenue. And this is the perspective from Detroit Street looking towards that area. The only thing we're going to be doing as far as a change to the building, we have to provide new windows for the facade. We're going to redo the glazing system because it's failing based on its 40-year life. The windows here that were originally in here are an older series awning with the fixed glazing. We're going to go back to more of a traditional window that will be in keeping with the White Swan building. So all these windows will be replaced with new modern window system. And this is the section. Storage is down here. Car carousel will sit in here. And then the new suites up here on the upper story. Everything else is existing. We'll be just gutting the interiors of the office buildings, removing all the metal step partitions and providing new spaces there for residents. That's basically the everything that is happening to the building.
Yeah, I might just add that the triangular balcony arrangement is on the new 88 edition is a kind of a reflection of the angle of Detroit Street. So whereas the old building assembly did not reflect the diagonals of Detroit Street, this balcony is a small reflection of those the directional aspects of Detroit Street. Also, there is a signpost not shown in this rendering that's on the existing building that identifies the building, and it is a similar arrangement. It's right above the courtyard. You can see it on another sheet. I think we went by that earlier. That's
Which one?
So that's, I don't know how we're doing, but that's pretty much a wrap up of kind of our project. And I guess we are open to questions if that's appropriate now, or I'm not sure what the procedures are.
Thank you for that. So next we should listen to the staff report. Julie, you can present that to us, I presume.
Thank you, Jim and Mark, for your presentation. Give a brief summary of the staff report that was shared. As the applicant stated, the site is two connected buildings situated at the southern end of the block bordered by North 4th Avenue, Catherine Street, and Detroit Street. Primary work in the 10,000 square foot proposed addition is additional space above the existing buildings on the existing roofs, above the existing roofs, with the addition of triangular shaped balconies in metal format in various locations around the building, and the addition of the carousel parking system. Staff identified a number of design guidelines that could be especially pertinent to this project, specifically in the categories of urban pattern and form, open space, parking, driveways, and service areas, building massing, street edge, entries, materials, building operational systems, sustainability in building elements, and noting that this is in the Carytown Character District, and these are street type, secondary street designation. So as a transition space, staff's analysis, staff notes that as a transition space between downtown and residential areas of Ann Arbor, Carytown primarily contains 2 to 4 story residential buildings and commercial buildings, including a number of single-family historic homes. While the proposed 60-foot height of the building follows the guidelines, it's worth noting that there are some lower height structures nearby. However, given the building's location near the Carytown shops across the market space, and the ongoing new construction in the area, specifically directly across Detroit Street, the height may soon be contextually appropriate. The design follows the downtown district guidelines for buildings that will be larger than some surrounding structures. The facade is broken up into smaller building modules with varying heights, balconies, and building materials, including the fact that it is 2 interconnected buildings. Staff find the street wall to be appropriate scale for pedestrians. The project includes open space primarily through private and semi-private plazas and balconies. However, the design should consider not only the future residents, but also pedestrians and the building's interaction with the adjacent farmers market. Carytown, particularly directly from adjacent to the Carytown shops and Ann Arbor's farmers market, is a very popular location for tourists and visitors. The proposed building has a brick, and noting that another popular neighborhood gathering space will soon be demolished across the street in Braun Court. The proposed building has a brick exterior. Staff finds that this is appropriate given the material context of the neighborhood and the prevalence of brick both on the buildings and in the streets themselves, as a couple of the streets adjacent to the building in which the building fronts are actually paved in brick. Additions on the upper floors, cladded in glass, provide a distinctive break from the lower level design in a contemporary way. The proposed construction of balconies in metal accent the existing silo feature, which will be maintained. That concludes the staff summary.
Thank you, Julia. So now anybody on the board want to jump in and make comment? Okay, we're done. Thank you, guys. I'll start out by making a
Sorry,
couple
actually.
comments. I guess when
Sorry to
Dick-
interrupt you, Jeff, but Lori actually did raise her hand.
Oh, sorry, I didn't.
That's
The
okay. It was the last.
thumbnails are so small that I'm gonna have to get my glasses on. Go ahead, Lori.
No problem. Just a few things. Happy to see, a different life brought to these buildings in this location. My questions are primarily around accessibility, understanding that there isn't a lot of interior program, that doesn't send you up the elevator to different floors, but I'm wondering about the decision not to add an accessible ramp along Detroit Street, where the existing stairs have been kind of reduced in place of landscape. It seemed like you have the ability to have a ramp there and have it not be required to use the elevator. We know how elevators go in and out of commission, and that seems like it would be beneficial for folks with accessibility needs even to the first floor for that. So that's my first question, and I'll give you my other, and then you can kind of respond to both. I'm a little curious about the decision to keep the lower terraces, and I know, with the the more recent use of the building and the restaurant at the bottom that had some value, but from a street experience standpoint and the ability to kind of enliven the corridor, I'm personally wondering about it being more advantageous to have that as a near at grade open space that was more usable and accessible to more people, even within the community that's living in the building, but also for the adjacent community. There's quite a bit of space around this building, and in the downtown area there actually usually isn't, right? We have kind of a sidewalk and we have a building, and then we don't have much left. And I'm just curious about the benefit of that space, the usability of it, the comfort of it, and whether that real estate might be more valuable if brought up to grade for more to use and appreciate. Thank you.
Jeff, or should we respond to that now?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we have discussed internally among the design team exactly what a barrier-free ramp, how that would work, or whether a lift would be installed. Presently, we have a landscaped area that you can see on the first floor sheet, and there is enough room there to do a switchback pedestrian ramp in that landscaped area. So that is a possibility that we're working on internally to see how the geometry of all of that would work, or whether we would go to a small lift someplace within the building or just under the cover of the building. So that is something we're working on right now. We don't have that shown on these drawings, but it would be a fairly minimal impact on the site, we think, because we sort of worked out the geometries on that. The other question is, ever since I saw that garden court down there, it's been quite striking to me to look down into a space, and seldom do you have the opportunity without enormous expense to create a kind of a sunken garden that would open up a whole side of the building for residential or some sort of commercial space to get light and air down there. And we looked at this as a real benefit to this space, as providing light and air and access to the gardens down there. It would be a nice feature at the grade level. It would be more of a public space, but it's been our choice to think about using that as a designing enhancing feature for a future residence or a future business. A live work kind of arrangement might be a nice thing in that lower level. Jim, do you have anything to add to that, or?
Not really. I mean, we've looked at the possibilities of putting a ramp on Detroit Street that would bring you up. Currently, there's concrete in this area here, and it slopes up from the farmers market and goes into this walkway area here. And currently, I don't think it meets the ADA guidelines, but because it was done in the 80s. But we could possibly put in a ramp system that would get you up to the walkway without having to go through the elevator and up to the common space. We've investigated that briefly, and like Mark said, we could either do it with a lift or with a ramp system, if possible. So, and the courtyard space too. I think we like the feature of the daylight at the lower level, and keeping that as amenity for that basement level.
Thank you.
Dick?
Thanks, Jeff. It's so many office building owners are really struggling right now due to leases, and many of them are talking about converting to residential where the demand is, and so this is a real good early conversion example for everyone. I think you've done a wonderful job with maintaining a real iconic building, and especially that silo feature. And I sort of like the setting that it's in, even though Lori's right, it is a little underutilized. Maybe it's just waiting for its time, I would hope. But the building is terrific, and as it is, and it's going to remain terrific. You've really done a good job. I had one other barrier-free access question. The one barrier-free parking space you have off the turnstile, does the driver then go back outside and walk south on 4th and come in the entrance to get into the building? Is that how that works?
That was the plan. There's a man door at the 4th Avenue
Right
entrance.
there.
You have to come out to the sidewalk and back up through the grade entry lobby and then through the elevator system.
Okay.
There is a stair here that's back stair, but yeah, we'd have to put in a second lift to accommodate that handicap space.
I'm wondering, you've put that in the best place you have to put it. I wouldn't put it on Detroit Street or 4th either, but it is going to be an intensified street with the housing project to the west across 4th. There'll be more and more pedestrians, and I wonder about queuing space for cars, and maybe if that one curb extension between the drop-off area and the access to the parking could also be queuing space.
In here?
Right there. Yeah, just for cars waiting to go in while one is coming out, and it's going through whatever it goes through to make that happen. It just seems like that's going to be a spot where it'll take a while for a person to egress and to enter. And given that there's only one door. So it seems like queuing space there would make sense, and more might be helpful. But other than that, it's really well done. And I think you've done a great job.
Thank you, Dick. Wendy, you have your hand up.
Sure. Question about, so the driveway is being relocated, understood, but there's a curb cut right now where I think the lobby is going to be where you have trash collection. So where are you storing the trash for pickup?
Our trash mitigation plan is the same as what we did next door. We are going to have housekeeping come in and collect the trash from the corridors and take it off-site to South State Street Commons, where it will be disposed of in the dumpsters at the South State Street Commons.
And the recycling as well?
Yeah, recycling as well.
Okay. Other question is from this plan, it looks like the farmer's market shed comes right up to the property. And so will that continue to be an option for pedestrians to kind of cut that corner in the northeast? Once these become condos, will there be a certain sensitivity to people traveling over that property like is happening now?
Yeah, and we did keep a little bit of concrete space there at the end of the shed. We're re-landscaping it there. We wanted to create a buffer both between the residents of the building and between the farmers market, but yet be sympathetic to trying to provide some circulation space back out onto Detroit Street from the end of the shed.
But there's not an easement there now?
No, there is. Well, so there is one easement on the site, and that easement is for the Detroit Edison that follows here. So this will be a maintained power easement. But so that's kind of over the Detroit Edison power easement for the transformer that's on site. But there's no granted easement for anything beyond that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Wendy. Camera?
I probably am repeating a lot of what my colleagues have already said. This building, the White Swan plus the addition that Rick Herman did is a project that I often tout as a wonderful example of preservation and beautifully done addition that complement the historic building. And I was a little nervous when I heard that this was the subject of this meeting, but I was relieved when I heard that Mark Reuter was doing it, and very just to echo what Dick was saying, it's just I think beautifully done. You've been very sensitive in how you've touched the White Swan building. I have to say I'm not too fond of the balconies. I mean, I understand you're trying to provide some open space for those units. The two balconies on the White Swan building, they look like they're sort of hanging there on each side. But I'm not sure I have any suggestions for how to do that differently. And I like that you didn't touch the front. I think you did a really wonderful job. I do wonder how you're dealing with vibration and noise from that elevator for that unit that is sort of over it, over the elevator. It's just curious about that. That seems like quite a challenge. I also just want to mention on the gardens, as probably as many of you, I spent a lot of time at Sweet Lorraine's and ate in that garden, and it's just a lovely feeling being down there. It's very light, and I think it worked great as gardens for the occupants of those units. So it's somewhat like I don't know, New York, where you go by and see, or in Boston, all the sunken gardens. They work really well, and so I think that could be very successful. I also would love to see a ramp on that east side, and I can't remember what that ramp is like, even though I walk up it almost every day. But is there any way, that I don't know if it's something that can be kept or grandfathered in. I don't know, or maybe it's not in the right spot. But yeah, I think that's all comments I had. Great job.
Thank you, Tamara.
Thank you, Tamara. Bill.
Maybe it's getting, by the way, I like this whole design. I've loved that building. Rick Herman did a great job at designing that. I've always admired it. He was a very careful architect. He reflects a lot of the original building and the projection. Agree with all the architects on board. It's very well done. Maybe it's getting too much in the weeds, but as a property owner and thinking of going through the planning process, while it's a clever solution in collecting the trash and recycling and taking it off site, the question is, what can happen in the future if State Street Commons is not available? If this is disjoint, is the planning department, and particularly the folks person that is in charge of trash collection, going to be comfortable with this off-site solution if there isn't some way to assure that that system will be in place somehow or other, so it doesn't end up being a trash collection internally going out onto the street, etc., sometime in the future? What consideration is being given to that?
That's a hard question to answer in the future. Maybe Jim has some ideas about that, but it's something that we think that the whole DDA should address in very urban situations, because trash collection has become a major issue for smaller buildings that just don't have the off-site ability to get a huge garbage truck with 26-foot overhead clearance above it, lifting trash containers overhead and dumping them. This was something that was requested of us in the adjacent building. We spent a couple of months trying to accommodate a complete trash truck inside the building, and came to the conclusion that it was going to be impossible to do. So we worked out this arrangement with the owner. But I think it would be great if the DDA could come up with a solution for all of these sort of situations. And it allows for recycling, as well as maybe compostable recycling, as well as just trash there, where you have the opportunity to do that better than I think with the garbage truck. Now, I don't really know what might happen in terms of the development agreement that was written on the other building, and the owners should, I don't know if they can respond to that. I think they're listening in, maybe MAV or the builder here on construction. I don't know if they're available or online. Is that?
Just allow the contractor to the engineering team to reply.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can, I believe.
All right. Hi, thank you. Hey, this is Tom Fitzsimmons. I'm a partner in the project, and Bill, specifically, we're required to put an easement on the South State Commons. So there's basically it's it's going to run with land. I mean, we've encumbered another property for trash, so it's never going to go away.
Good answer. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you for that, Tom. Lori, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I did just want to note, especially with a kind of a switch to residential use, possibly the ability to look at landscape surrounding the building a little bit more closely would be lovely to kind of enhance. I know this is further down the line for you, but enhance the beds that are already existing, but I would love to see an expansion of landscape and removal of some pavement on the south end adjacent to Unit 102. Those stairs, if they were only accessed to the south, you could landscape all around them and create a bit more of an identity as a kind of more of a softer neighborhood residential use there, and reduce some hardscape and incorporate some permeability and a little bit ability to have more lush landscape around that corner. So as much as we can remove of some of that hardscape and soften it, especially within the property lines, that would be wonderful.
Yeah, we can look into that. We've discussed that internally, is about removing some of the sidewalk that's on that space there,
Right.
without interfering with too much circulation.
Yeah, might require some handrail reconfigurations or something, but other than that, would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Lori. Well, I suppose that Bill and Dick can both relate to this maybe better than some of the other members on the board, but after you've been around a while, this building, the part that was designed by Rick Herman in 1988 was built by Joe Neal, but my company finished every single one of the interior suites in this project, starting with the Ann Arbor Observer on the first and second floor of the White Swan building, all the way through to doing Suite Lorraine's in the basement. And so it feels funny to see it come around. When I first saw this thing, I thought, oh my God, what are they doing to this building? But I have to agree with other members here that this is a great solution, and the idea that it's changing from what used to be all offices and a little bit of retail to now all residential, especially given what's going on in the office rental environment. I don't know, it's kind of encouraging. I have a couple questions. Well, first of all, the idea of the car elevator is really intriguing. We don't have anything like that in Ann Arbor, so I'm going to be fascinated to watch how that goes. I just came back from a trip to Edinburgh, and I had to get into a little tiny elevator to go down into the basement of this downtown hotel. And I mean, it was the most claustrophobic experience of my life. And so it'll be this one is bigger for sure, but it's going to be interesting to see how residents respond to an operation like that. Just it's interesting. Question for you. Are you getting rid, it looks like you're getting rid of the ganged pyramid skylight detail that's sort of in the inside of the L of the building. There's a whole gang of pyramid skylights there.
Yeah, there are some small skylights for the basement area, and we just didn't think that that space could be utilized for more open space for a balcony for this Suite 102 at grade level without taking over other green space. And we didn't think the light to the basement was necessary through those skylights if we maintain we maintain the terrace itself. So that's going to become outdoor seating area for the ground floor suite.
So if I understand this correctly, these are two-story suites. 101 and 102 are lower level and main level suites.
That's our intent, is to possibly have a main living area with a lower additional sleeping area or bedroom spaces with a rec space down below. So yeah, there would be a 2-level suite there at the grade plane.
Yeah. I'm not totally geeked about losing the skylights, but I mean, it does present a challenge as to how you get natural light back into those lower level spaces that are tucked way back there in the corner. And especially considering that Suite 101 already has its lower level plaza area. So just a question.
Yeah,
The other,
we're adding an area way over here so that we can get some more natural daylight into the basement area down here.
right.
That was some of our intent. So we're looking at the other area ways that are scattered around the building to see what we can do as far as bringing natural light in.
Good. While we're up in that area where the triangular balconies are, I'm from an aesthetic point of view, I think they're good and so forth. But from a practical standpoint, as far as how they function for the units, I mean, if you're going to put a group of people out on that triangular balcony, you got two, sort of wedge-shaped areas where, maybe one person can be isolated. But I guess I guess the question I'm asking is that the right shape for the balconies, understanding that you're trying to provide some outdoor living space to those units, which I applaud. I just question whether the triangular form, it might serve the aesthetic function from the standpoint of how the building looks, but does it really function well for how the residents might use it? So that's just a question. I don't object to the triangular form elevation wise.
We've had some interesting experiences with the two Flatiron buildings we've designed, one at the other end of Detroit Street, which has essentially triangular balconies that jut out, and then the triangular balconies on the building next door. And people come up with inventive ways, we found, to furnish those, like I'm not exactly what it sure is, but a lot of times you create a space that's a little unusual and people come up with real creative ways to use it. And so that's what I'm hoping happens here. The car elevator thing, the development team actually went out and rode these things and used these things where they're manufactured in Pittsburgh. Is that right, Jim?
Yeah, there's a double unit in Pittsburgh being currently used by the same company that we're going to be purchasing it from. So we went, the development team went and tested it out and looked at the safety features and how it functioned. And it's virtually quiet. You can barely hear it. The 12 trays of hold vehicles are all going to have EV charging on them. So it's an impressive system that we think
it's completely automated once they're on the lift. The driver exits and it goes to its respective space and stays there. And then when you come down, you essentially have an app that recalls your car and it comes down to that level and you get on and drive it out and go onto the turntable. So you're not actually in a confined basement-like space at any time.
Yeah, I'm fascinated by it and I'm really looking forward to seeing how it works.
I wrote the sustainability report for the planning submission, and one of the things that you have to compare this with, this uses about 1,300 square feet of space for the turntable, the handicap space, and the actual carousel, the car elevator. And if we were to put 12 cars out on a parking lot, it would use 10 times that much space, with paving, concrete. So from from an environmental standpoint, this uses far less steel, concrete. It doesn't need internal lighting. It doesn't need heating in the space. it uses far fewer materials. So we think it's a great sustainable kind of way to handle vehicular parking without underground parking lot garages, which in themselves are very expensive to do. So not that this is cheap, but
So just do you know off the top of your head, Mark, what kind of the cost comparison, say, per parking space is for a system like this compared to, say, I mean, obviously it's going to be more than a surface parking lot, but or a basement parking structure. I'm just curious, what kind of cost premium does something like this carry?
the building development team is working through that right now, and it's a little hard to attribute costs because it's a little bit like doing an underground parking garage. You're supporting the building, so how much of the structure do you allocate, to the underground parking garage? But I think we wouldn't do this if we didn't think it was a competitive way to handle vehicles. So that's about the only way I can say it right now. Maybe Tom has something to add to that.
Tom, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I'm sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So specifically on the cost side, they tell us there's a number of different automated solutions out there right now. This is just one of them. They project at around $30,000 a parking space, $35,000 a parking space, depending on how it's configured, what features and options you get. I personally went to Pittsburgh and tested this out, and the reason I really like this carousel style is I don't like parking in parking lots or parking structures. I'm big, I'm tall, it's narrow and tight, but this is a double car wide, but where you enter and exit at the first floor, because people don't ride up this, they get on and off. People don't actually use it. There's only one car wide. So you actually have 4.5 to 5 feet of space on either side for your doors to get in and out, which is really nice. And then there are automated gates for safety. So once you exit your vehicle, you have lots of room to get in and out of your car, take groceries or packages in and out of your car, exit the gates, they close. And when it senses that you're out of there for a safety feature, then it goes into operation. It also operates both ways. So it can go up and down either way. We experienced, and they told us that the time from trying to get your car to it being ready to get in is no more than 90 seconds at any point. So between that and the technology they have in these things is all controlled in apps as well as just directly through your car. We were pretty impressed with the whole system.
Mr. Chair, did you realize there are two hands raised?
I see that. Lori?
Yeah, mine was sort of like never went down, but I did have one simple comment about the balconies, which is it could just be the location of the doors being kind of thoughtfully moved to one side or the other that would free up some different uses of the real estate on those. So it might be something to think about. That's all.
Thank you, Lori.
And I did have my hand raised, although maybe the time allotted to it elapsed. Do you mind if I make a comment?
Go ahead.
Appreciate the discussion. Very engaged group as always. When you provide comments, staff we're doing our best behind the scenes to take notes so that we can re-summarize them for you and then turn them into your final memo of recommendations for the petitioner team. And one thing that would be really helpful to us as you go through your discussion is to cite what area of the design guidelines your comments relate to, or if it's unrelated to the design guidelines. That way we can organize that in our report. One thing I would just like to remind the board of is that there is a very extensive review for items such as physical accessibility, ADA, solid waste, and transportation impacts. associated with projects, and those will be looked at by our colleagues in a variety of other departments. So we want to also ensure not only that the comments that are related specific to the design guidelines, we capture that accurately, but also that we don't generate potentially conflicting advice from this board that may later be given to the applicant or the petitioner from staff that specialize in those areas. So wanted to make that comment, open to any feedback about it, but it would really help us do our job. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that. And Lori, you still have your hand up, or is that an old hand raising?
I am back up only to say that I'm happy to retract the comment about the lower level use spaces and maintain for the minutes that's an appropriate use of the lower level garden space as an amenity to the users, if we want to kind of retract that inconsistency. The one thing I will say about accessibility is meeting that to the letter of the law is not always the same as creating equitable and fully uniform accessibility to the building and the structure. So I think some of the comments start to address the nuance of that requirements versus quality of experience. That is, I think, a portion of what the board brings to the conversation.
I would love to believe that our staff also move beyond technical requirements to quality of experience. So let it sit well with everyone here that we very much care about those things. We take them very seriously and always do nudge our petitioners to look for opportunities to go above and beyond. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, hearing none. Thank you very much for the presentation to the folks at MAVD, and we look forward to seeing this project progress. Thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
All for the presentation, and thank you to the members for your insightful comments on a number of different features. I would like to just briefly summarize many of the points that I heard to make sure I'm capturing the contours of your observations and suggestions and comments. There's an emphasis on potential inclusion of public gathering space, importance of pedestrian access at the northeast corner adjacent to the farmers market, ability to look at landscaping around the building, especially around unit 102, to create more residential identity by removing hardscape. Removing the skylights raises a challenge for some units receiving natural light. Aesthetically, the triangular balconies are good, but functionally, a group of people in a triangular format may be difficult. Perhaps the door location could free up space. And some other concerns mentioned include consider queuing space near the parking access entrance for cars, an emphasis on accessibility and new improvements, specifically a desire to see a ramp on the east side, and consider other possibilities for the lower level garden space than potentially just as amenities for units. Did I miss anything or capture things, the details correctly, or is anything you'd like to add or modify?
I expressed a concern about the usability of the triangular balconies, and Mark's clarification that experience with other buildings, certainly experience counts for a lot, and the fact that they see no problems with that in other locations, that's sort of reassuring, or somewhat assuring to me that the triangular balcony issue is not a problem for me, and therefore I don't see any reason to include it in the notes. Which is a long way of saying that it's not there, and I don't think it should be there.
Board Member Singleton, you also mentioned the triangular balconies.
Yeah, I was simply saying that the location of the door within those balconies could be considered to provide more usability of the space.
Yeah. Board
Bill,
Member Mitchell.
Jack, you have your hand up.
I do in spirit of Hank's comment, the section in the guidelines related to parking and driveways. I talked about the curb extension on Fourth Ave, and we may want to reduce that to create queuing space and circulation space as one person's waiting to get into the parking turnstile and someone is coming out. I think there may be some long waits on Fourth Ave that could create issues. So it'd be nice to have a curbside queuing space there. And that would come from our parking and driveway section of the guidelines.
Thank you for that clarification.
Any other comments? Okay, Julia, thank you for that.
Thank you.
Item G, moving on to unfinished business. There's nothing under that item. Is there anything that we need to talk about? Communications. Various communications to the design review board. Do we have any communications? Thought I looked at this and
I think your audio is not working, Ms. Alexander, but we do not have communications.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Now is our second section for public comment.
Yes, thank you. At this time, no participants or attendees have their hands raised.
Okay. I guess before we adjourn, anybody got anything to talk about?
Yeah, hey, Hank, I was wondering if you could update us on our fate. I know we went to Planning Commission, but I didn't see that meeting.
Sure. This will be several months away yet. I can share, if you'll bear with me just one moment, I could look up the exact date if you're curious. The topic was recently circulated with the Planning Commission at their working session. That would have been the September 10th working session. So if you're curious about the status of discussions, that's the latest one that I know of. Those meeting minutes and also recording should be available through the city website and CTN resources. But as it stands, no formal language text amendments have been forwarded or agenda'd. Once those are, we will certainly let you know, keep you apprised of any dates, but I don't have a specific date when a text amendment would go before the Planning Commission yet, and then they would make a recommendation to City Council. So we will keep you updated, but the September meeting was presented by Manager Leonard. That's the update I have.
All right, thank you. And thanks, everybody. Lori, just noticed you have your hand up again.
Sorry, I just wanted to note that I did listen in on that meeting and will note that there was very little mention of the design review board. There was a lot of ground to cover in the discussion around review periods and public input. There was one voice from the community that at the end of his minutes mentioned quickly, by the way, I think that the design review board has value. There was another commissioner that mentioned the same, but it was maybe all of 15 seconds within the course of the meeting. So just wanted to let those of you who weren't able to do that know that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Well, thanks everybody for coming. We'll look forward to the email from staff so they can get it, so we can look at it and then they can get out to the developers. So if there's nothing further, if I can have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Dick.
Second.
Second by Tamara. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thanks very much for coming, everybody. We're adjourned.
Thank you.